based on what you've just said in terms of corporate governance reforms, the fact that it is a secular trend, it seems like embedded now in Japan, then we saw the Nikkei 225 crossing the 44,000 threshold earlier today. How much more further do you think it has to run in the next 12 months?
I think actually there's enormous upside. The question is only the speed of how quick we can get margins up. Right? So Japanese companies still trade at half the margins as the S&P 500. There's a lot of room in that. And actually still a lot of that is actually fairly easy going. If you were running the company, if lots of other people were running the company, if lots of Japanese management were running the company, we hear it from lots of mid-level management, if they were running the company, they'd exit these very, very low margin businesses. They'd invest in not higher margin businesses. You've actually seen it. You've seen the power of AI, for that matter, in lots of US businesses enhancing profitability that is yet to come to Japan. And we've talked to a lot of management, and they've yet to kind of implement all these margin-enhancing reforms that could happen. So yes, I can remain extraordinarily bullish.
You are passionate about pushing boards to do what they need to do when it comes to underperforming management. It sounds like a no-brainer. So what is the holdup then?
Maybe it sounds like a no-brainer to you. Look, there's a lot of conservatism in Japan, and so there's a reticence to go ahead and actually say, you know what, we got to exit people not just because that is scandal, not just because they're hiding losses or it was fraud. We got to hold them accountable if they're bottom quartile management. This is what goes on in the States all the time. It's actually what goes on in Europe all the time. And yet it has not fully happened in Japan yet. It's actually not come to Japan yet. And so this is a part of an educational transition. This is what Abe had in mind originally with the corporate governance reforms. But yes, it just takes a long time for people to change their mindset. You know what? It's a shame. Not only is it a shame, it's shameful. And the biggest victims of it is actually all the stakeholders, the employees, the shareholders, the banks, the customers, if you don't perform best. And so that in of itself is shameful, not just hiding losses or not just some under scandal of related party transactions. And so yes, we're in that transition of education. Everybody's in that transition of being educated and holding management accountable. Is a conservative culture in Japan, but I think that's slowly changing. We've been 10 years down this road, and yes, I could see another couple of years down this road. And then yes, companies that are underperforming for 1, 3, or 5 years, that'll be shameful, and there'll be a change in management, because what's at stake is not just the management's feelings. What's at stake is all the employees and all the other stakeholders.
The Tokyo Stock Exchange has been a really key part of the corporate reform story, but mostly a lot of what they've been putting out has been sort of, here is the gold standard, hopefully companies will follow. Do you think they need to be a little bit more forceful in some of their regulations and proposals for reform?
Actually, forgive me, I actually think it's been slightly different. I think they've actually taken the lowest common denominator. Let's go ahead and have a 5% ROE. Let's go ahead and have like 1 times price to book. You know what? That's the lowest common denominator for companies. Some companies should have a 15% ROE. Some companies should have 5 times the price to book. It depends what industry you're in. And so, yes, I think the next round of changes will hold you accountable for being at least the top half of your particular industry, not just of like, certain real estate companies maybe should trade at 1 times price to book. Certain kind of other sectors should trade at 5 or 6 or 7 times ROEs. But a lot of other businesses, tech companies for that matter, maybe should trade at 15 or 20 times ROEs. So it depends very much on kind of what sector you're in, and you should be beholden to your sector. So look, the government remains incredibly engaged across the board and continue to make these improvements. And that's what I was saying. They continue to turn the dials in terms of the upcoming corporate governance reforms, the next reform of the corporate governance code that's happened a number of times already, and this is they're turning the dials again. The stewardship code reforms, they're turning the dials again. There's other regulatory reforms, both coming in terms of from a legal point of view, in terms of the Commercial Act, as well as from the Japan Exchange, in terms of the leadership there and what's fair M&A. So it's just coming across the board. They've done this already for 10 years, and it looks like they're going to continue doing this to try to get those changes that are going to make Japan extraordinarily competitive on the global scene.